Hello and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be giving you some tips for leveling up your characters. Now these are tips that are kind of timeless, they apply to everything, and they essentially cover a lot of the main mindsets and things behind just the idea of speed leveling. So hell, in the next expansion, no matter what that is, if you just think about the tips in this guide, well, it should help you out no matter what. Now, if you're looking for something that is specific to Warlords of Draenor, I've got a guide that will take you from level 90 to 100 in under 5 hours, and you can find that in the link in the description. And I suppose finally I'll just mention that this is supposed to be decently exhaustive in terms of covering points, so one or two, yeah, there'll probably be things that you already know, a few things may be obvious, but rather than having some sort of magic solution that instantly gets you to a very high level, a lot of what speed leveling is about is just taking every tiny little optimization where you can, and the idea of this video is to point out all of those optimizations so that it should hopefully help you out. Anyway, let's get into the meat of the video. Number 1. Next, let's talk about the idea of pushing yourself. Now, this is more of a mindset related point, but I often find that when I'm leveling, I fall into a bit of a groove, and that's fine normally, but it's not always the best for when you're trying to level insanely fast. Basically, what I do when I'm trying to level up characters, especially if it's say a level 90 to 100 burn that I want to get through really fast, is I try to maintain as much focus on the game as possible and play in such a way that it pushes me a bit more. This really most directly applies to how you pull mobs, and I'd say also the uptime of your speed-related cooldowns. Putting character speed increasing spells and say tell me when or weak auras will help you ensure uptime, and then when you're fighting things, be a complete tryhard, pull really aggressively, because, well, obviously within reason, but you'll have heirlooms, you'll have loads of things which will make your character extremely powerful, and I find that often when I'm just regularly leveling up, I don't really use that increased power to its fullest extent. If you pull aggressively, then guess what? You'll be using the true power of those heirlooms. Like, sure, the 35% experience boost is fantastic, but couple that perhaps with killing mobs maybe, I don't know, 50% faster because you're really using those heirlooms to their advantage, and you'll find they're a lot more useful than just their base experience benefit. Number 2. Next, let's cover utility potions. So, utility potions are actually really good. I recommend grabbing a bunch of health and invisibility potions because these can completely save you from a wipe and having to corpse run. That's a waste of time, and you don't want that if you're trying to power level and really get up there quickly. Now, sure, some classes and races have got handy abilities to get out of a tricky situation, but things like health and invis pots are universal and, well, they're kind of awesome. Also, another great utility potion is, say, the potion of water walking, or the potion of swiftness, which is basically an 8-second long sprint that you can use as a potion. These things can be farmed up, you can just go through your leveling process with a massive stack of them, and you'll be able to walk over water whenever you want, and also, importantly, you'll be able to run fast whenever you want, on top of any class abilities that you might already have. Number 3. Next, there is a 20% experience potion that's active during level 91 to 100. The only catch is that it does cost garrison resources. You should ideally get all of your alts through the Tanan jungle, and then just leave them in your garrison once it's unlocked. This will allow the garrison cache to grow in size, which gives you loads of free resources. Alternatively, if you don't want to wait, then just have NPC scan on and kill any rares that you see on Draenor, because the rares actually drop garrison resources, which is enough to fund you getting these experience potions. Number 4. Let's move on to add-ons, and add-ons actually can help you out while you're leveling. There is an add-on called Auto Turn-In, which will complete quest dialogue for you. This is a massive time saver if you don't want to read the quest text. It also correctly chooses rewards and things like that, so all you have to do is just right-click in the NPC and the add-on will take care of the rest. Also consider getting Scrap. This is a very handy add-on which will automatically sell vendor greys for you, which helps clear out your bags and just reduces the amount of time that you waste doing that. Both of these are very handy to have. Number 5. Next, I've got a great method that I first saw on Asmongold's YouTube channel. Be sure to check out his video for the full details, but essentially, what you do is you get a high-level character, and you take it into the Ruby Sanctum, then a low-level character who is over level 30 enters, then you just grind all the trash in the instance and then reset it. This is a super powerful method, especially if you have the 300% experience potion. According to Asmongold, the low-level character gets 50 to 70% of a level without an elixir. I wouldn't be surprised if Blizzard nerfs this soon. Also, his channel's great in general, so be sure to check it out.
Number 6.
Another tip that you might not have thought of is actually just getting really big bags. Getting large bags for your character is dead handy, as it reduces the amount of time that you've got to deal with items and things like that. Ember Silk bags usually cost 300 gold, and they are pretty much just excellent value for the slots that they provide.
Number 7.
Another important thing to consider is actually timers. I recommend putting everything on a timer. This is something that I learned the hard way. At one point during my run from 90 to 100 in one of my more recent characters, I completely forgot to reapply my experience potion, and I had about 20 minutes of unneeded downtime because of that. So, what you should probably do is set up timers. Now, I have alluded to this throughout the guide, but essentially you just want to put the major stuff on a prominent timer so you can see whenever it comes off cooldown. This includes your Hearthstone, experience buff potions, speed potions, your character speed increases, and the like. A simple way to do this is to use Tell Me When, which is a very easy to configure add-on. Weak Ores also works, but it requires a little bit more tinkering. Now, there are loads of guides on Tell Me When, so just do a YouTube search for them. Now, I recommend making your buttons 20% visible when on cooldown, and then 100% visible when off cooldown. This essentially means that you easily see when something comes off cooldown, it pops up and alerts you. Of course, maintaining a high uptime on every single ability that just shaves off time from your total is extremely important, especially the big ones, like your Hearthstone or your XP buff. Seriously, as I said earlier, if you use your Hearthstone on cooldown and intelligently place it, you will cut so much time off your run. I can't recommend just setting up timers highly enough, it really will help you.
Number 8.
Next, I'm just going to very quickly mention something that I'm sure most of you know, but in case there's any new people watching, what you want to do is stack up quests. So, go to a quest hub, pick up every single quest that there is, and try to do them all at once and then return at once. Basically, this is just a common MMO adage that people have been doing for a long time, but it means that it cuts down your runtime, which is obviously a very good thing because, well, time running needlessly is just time wasted.
Number 9.
This next one more applies to Warlords of Draenor, but what you should do is get some crafted epics. If you've got the spare materials or money, then just craft some gear and send it to your alts. The stuff's usable from level 91 onwards. Getting a strong weapon is a giant boost to your leveling speed, as you'll just completely wreck mobs. If you plan on giving a character a strong crafted weapon and, bits of armor anyway, then it makes a lot of sense. Especially for the weapon, if you plan on giving them, say, a 670 crafted weapon, just give it to that character at level 91, because you will chew through mobs at a ridiculous rate that way.
Number 10.
Next, I think that you should enchant things, especially your heirlooms. The Warlords of Draenor enchants, and in fact all enchants, do scale down to level 1, so at the very least, use the Warlords of Draenor cloak enchant, because that will give you a 10% increase to your run speed, which is kind of nice to have. Other slots can be enchanted with pre-Warlords of Draenor enchants, so that's things like your bracers, and your chest, and your head, things like that. Now, the Mists of Pandaria enchants don't actually scale as well at the low levels in comparison to the Wrath and Cataclysm ones, so do bear that in mind. Not that it's going to matter much if you use the level 30 to 80 speed leveling tip that I mentioned earlier.
Number 11.
Another thing that you should do is get flasks and food. Just go and buy them, and this applies more to the level 90 to 100 leveling, but this principle still applies to the pre-Warlords of Draenor content. This will, of course, increase your damage, which means that you're going to kill things faster, which is great for your leveling speed. If you've got some spare Cataclysm or Mists of Pandaria stuff lying around, then be sure to use that for leveling, because you're not going to find much use for it anywhere else.
Number 12.
First, we've got perhaps one of the most important things, and that is the 300% bonus experience potion. This is called the Elixir of Ancient Knowledge, and it comes from 3 different sources. It also works from level 1 through 85. The first source is a rare mob called Kroll the Blade in the Dread Wastes. It's a 10% drop and I believe a 30 to 45 minute spawn timer, so just leave a character there to farm up a few potions. Also, the Steam Weedle Preservation Society rares in Nagrand have got a chance of dropping an item that can contain one of these potions. Finally, the Arcurius of Flame in the Timeless Isle does drop a potion, but it's quite rare, and honestly, farming it's just not worth it in my opinion. Now, be sure to use these when you don't have to waste loads of time traveling around the place, so ideally pop one of them right when you've got into a new quest hub, zone, or perhaps have started a dungeon.
Number 13.
And I suppose it's time to just talk about the obvious: get full heirlooms. This is common sense. Just go in with a full set for the boost to experience, survivability, and damage. The patch 6.1 heirloom tab has changed how the system is handled though. There are now 3 different levels. The first works up to 60, the second works up to 90, and the final one works up to level 100. You can purchase these from vendors in Ironforge or Undercity if you are the Horde. They're kind of expensive though. It's 1,000 gold to get up to level 90, and it's 2,000 gold to get up to level 100 per heirloom, which really does add up. Now, purchasing 35 heirlooms unlocks a 60% speed mount that can be used at level 1. This will make the first 20 levels quite a bit faster, so it's definitely worth getting.
Number 14.
Next on the chopping block, we have got macros, and this is only a point for the most serious of you, and especially if, say, you're thinking about your plans for trying to level really quickly and, hell, even the next expansion. But one thing that could be really good is using macros well, and what this essentially does is it ensures a very high uptime on all of your different abilities, and usually what you want to do is make a macro with your class's primary attack. And into that macro, you want to pour all of your DPS potions, all of your trinkets, your available buff banners, basically have them all in so that as soon as you engage combat, if something useful's off cooldown, you use it. This blows through loads of potions, but if you want to do things in a bleeding edge manner, well, extremely high uptime is something that you absolutely want. Another nice upshot is that you don't actually have to actively think about many of these things if they're just naturally baked into your rotation.
Number 15.
Another thing that you should definitely do is get the guild standards. There are 3 guild standards with a separate cooldown, though they do share a 2-minute internal cooldown. The great thing about these is that they increase your experience and rep gains by 5, 10, and 15% respectively. That's not massive, but it certainly is a very nice boost. In Warlords of Draenor, it's a very good idea to drop off one of these before looting one of the treasures, as the treasure experience will benefit from the buff. Very, very good. Also, if you have loads of treasures clustered within an area, then try to drop the epic guild standard. Its 100-yard range means that one guild standard will give you an XP boost for multiple treasures.
Number 16.
Another thing that you should probably do is the holiday experience bonuses. So a few of the different holidays in the game give a 10% experience bonus. And I don't really think these are worth doing in the most part because of the travel time, but the Darkmoon Fair actually sells a Darkmoon Top Hat. It's a consumable item that gives you 10% reputation and experience. Basically, it's the same buff that you get from riding on the carousel, but you can actually use it anywhere, which is damn useful. Getting a bunch of these at 10 tokens a pop is a very good thing to do if you're leveling during the Darkmoon Fair. Now, for the other holidays, honouring the bonfires during the Midsummer Festival does give you a 10% bonus, which is great, as does the Wickerman buff from Hallow's End.
Number 17.
Right, now this next one might seem stupidly derpy, but use your bloody Hearthstone. Honestly, I catch myself all the time just forgetting to hearth back to a quest hub while I'm leveling, and sometimes even just forget to set the damn thing at the most recent quest hub. Here's the thing. The reduced travel time from using your Hearthstone pretty much on cooldown is ginormous, so remind yourself to use it. You might think this is a tiny point, but maybe over the course of leveling up, you know, over, let's just say a few days, and maybe getting all the way from 1 to 100, if you use your Hearthstone all the time, you'll probably shave off maybe, let's just say an hour of travel time. Maybe even more, which is very good. Also in Draenor, you do have your Garrison Hearthstone, so use that to great effect as well.
Number 18.
And with that covered, let's talk a little bit about the Traveler's Tundra Mammoth. Basically, get one of these. It gives you a vendor that you can use anywhere where you are, which is just stupidly handy. It will cut down on time running around trying to find a repair vendor, and it also helps you keep your bags clean. I know some of these tips don't seem massive, but really it's just about, shaving off 5 minutes here and there, and if you do all of those small tips, it'll get to the stage where stuff is quite a bit faster to a noticeable level.
Number 19.
The next point is about talents and glyphs, and it's very important to consider these when you're going to be leveling up. Don't just fire up a max level raid guide and choose the talents and glyphs from that, because guess what? They won't be the best for leveling, or at least there's a good chance they won't be. Now, I'm not going to cover every class, but because that would be silly, but in general, what you want to do is choose glyphs that provide survivability, burst damage, and increased movement. Remember that anything that's about the end game is about doing as much damage as possible over a sustained 5 to 6 minute fight. That's just not the case when you're leveling. When you're leveling, you want to burst kill stuff, and you want to be able to move from mob to mob very quickly. So for an example, for the rogues, Cloak and Dagger is not used in raiding, but Cloak and Dagger is extremely powerful while leveling up. So you definitely do need to consider things like that.
Number 20.
Next, I've got another Warlords of Draenor tip, and this is essentially the most important thing to keep in mind when you're leveling through Draenor. So, it's basically just treasures and bonus areas. When you're leveling through the WoD zones, just do every single bonus objective that you see. These offer loads of experience and are far more worth doing than just regular quests. Now, as well as that, you should pay attention to treasures. There are loads of treasures strewn throughout the world, and picking one up gives you roughly a quest's worth of experience. You should get an add-on called Handy Notes, and then a plugin for it called Draenor Treasures. This will put all of the Draenor treasures on your world map, and the great thing about the treasures is that any experience bonuses apply to them as well, so you're going to get a lot more experience from just getting one treasure than you will from a single quest. It really is very good. And there you have it, 20 different ways that you can hopefully level a little bit faster. Now, of course, speed leveling isn't for everyone, and I know that personally I like to go, slow the first time I level through a bit of content. But on alts, it really can be a lot of fun trying to beat past records and just get leveled as fast as possible. That's it for the video. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you next time.